So, the 10th was where you guys were picked. Did that surprise you?
Yeah, it did surprise me. I was surprised because of knowing that everyone knows that we have virtually our entire starting lineup back, and so it was a little perplexing for me, but that's okay.
It doesn't matter to you at all where they pick you?
Does it matter for me at all that?
Where they pick you at all?
that
I mean, any preseason poll like that, does that really, in the past, have you ever been like, oh, that's great, or does it factor into what you do on a daily basis?
In terms of being chosen 10th? No, I don't think so. There's been years where we've been chosen, low like we were this year, and then we finished pretty high, and then vice versa, we've been picked pretty high, and then when we end up finishing lower than that, and so, I think in these last couple of years, with the transfer portal being such a significant part, and it becoming a bigger part of the recruiting classes, and you just don't know how those potential transfers are going to impact those teams, and so our team is primarily organic built, and so a lot of the teams are heavily into the transfer portal, and I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying that for us, for this particular cycle that we're in, we just haven't had to rely on getting too many transfers. And so I think what people know about us, they know what we're going to get. And, for a school like UCLA that has several new players on their team that are transferring in, I think there's more uncertainty with those schools in terms of how that team is going to gel. They got a lot of talent. I mean, those players that transferred in are terrific. I mean, elite level players that are coming from elite level programs. So I think that's one reason they were picked so high. But the preseason poll is the preseason poll. I mean, it's certainly, as we all know, it's an inexact science when it comes to picking, who's going to finish where. I do think that the conference overall is much stronger than it was last year. And so even though we're significantly better than we were last year, it's all kind of relative. And because I thought the conference was down last year. And this year the conference is much better from top to bottom. There's just a few teams, I think, that maybe have dropped a little bit because of players transferring out or graduation. It's hard to say graduation because it doesn't seem like anybody graduates this year anymore. They just tend to transfer from one school to another. But I think that what we're going to find, in our, like everything else, everyone talks about the strength of the Midwest and certainly the Big Ten in volleyball. I think the last couple of years they've certainly shown and flexed their muscle on the depth and how good those teams are. But I think the conference, people are maybe not giving enough credit to the Pac-12 this year. The Pac-12 is going to be back this year. And our coaches are terrific and very, very good. And I think that, Stanford's been the team the last couple of years that was really affected by COVID like we were. And I think that Stanford, now with everybody getting a spring under their belt and everyone staying healthy and COVID not playing such a factor, I think you're going to see, I think, a normal type of cycle and play in teams in our conference being in the upper part of the polls.
Probably the biggest question I've got the last couple months is about the second coaching change on the staff. Is it differing philosophies, that kind of thing, where Lauren left and Brandon came in?
Yeah, I think it was definitely, I think I was more the reason why that happened. It wasn't the right fit for me. I think that Lauren's a terrific young lady, great work ethic, and a lot of things that she brought to the program were outstanding. I think just for me, and I'm kind of set in my ways and, kind of stubborn, and it was less about her and more about me, and unfortunately that just, took place, and, I'm wishing her the best, and I think in terms of, for me particularly, it was, obviously the right decision for me to make.
And Brandon, what does he bring?
So Brandon is he's an Arizona guy. He's a multi-generational family from Tucson, and graduated from U of A. Was my manager here for 4 years. His brother was my manager, and so there's a lot of history with Brandon in the program, and I'm very passionate about volleyball. And one of the key things was for him to be considered here was that he go out at some point and get experience outside of the program. And so him going to Corpus Christi, Texas, and coaching there, and then the last 3 years at Dartmouth really put him in a position to be strongly considered here. So, but he's, great energy guy, really positive, young. It's funny, people think that I'm his father. And so, he adds a lot of just that youthful energy that we need. He's a bright guy, super smart. So it's been great having him on staff.
And he's working with the Pins?
Pardon me? Yeah.
The
So he's working with the littles right now. So, yeah, so Gwen Egberg, who's our volunteer assistant, is helping out with the setters, and I'm doing the outside hitters, and Rita doing the middles, and Brandon doing the liberos and the DSs, the littles, as we affectionately call them.
So you still let go of the setters, huh?
Yeah, I have a lot of confidence. Gwen, it was taught a lot of setters, a lot of All-American setters when she was at Nebraska. She's a terrific trainer and has a lot of experience in training that position. So I felt comfortable. We consulted a lot in terms of the training and methods of training, but she's been around the block. She's almost as old as I am, so don't let her don't write that in print. But yeah, she has a lot of experience. She's an outstanding teacher.
And I'm going to do this so it's easier for you to hear me.
Yes.
What do you think about this year's squad? How are they sort of coming together at this point?
It's a terrific group. So it's the first time in my 31 years that we don't have any new players coming in the fall. So Lauren Rummel and Anna Heath were matriculated here a semester early, so they were here in the spring, and then China Crouch is back, and so we kind of hit the ground running. We're not instructing information to players that have never heard it before, so that's been a real advantage for us. So the good news is that we haven't had to train as much, and so for all the coaches, health is a big deal, and trying to not overtrain to the point where maybe they potentially get hurt. So we get a chance to take more time off, which is good, and I think the players appreciate that. The cognitive level is much higher, and so for the players that have been in the program since the COVID year in 20, they've heard all that information repeatedly now for 2 years. So now it's just a matter of continuing to fine tune. We're not an overly physical team. We're not overly athletic. We're not just, crazy, kind of elite type of athletes, but we're really much better physically, stronger and faster, but the intellectual part is better, and the cognitive part and the aptitude for the game is better. Their skill set is better. Our maturity in terms of how we handle our business is better. Again, how that relates to the conference, I don't know, but we're certainly better than we have been in the last couple of years.
And was that a definitive, was that a really, did you think about having those two come early, or did it just happen that all the things fell the right way, and it just happened that way, and you just took advantage of it?
I know the trend in athletics tends to be, especially, obviously it's been happening in football for a long time, but in volleyball it's actually becoming a bigger trend that they're trying to get their kids to graduate early and come in a semester early. I'm not a real advocate of that. I like the players. There's a lot of things that go with the senior year that are lifelong memories. But this particular situation, it just coincidentally worked out that they both wanted to do it. And Lauren, being a local player, was really anxious to get and play at a higher level team, come to U of A early. So she was on board immediately as soon as we even talked to her about it. And I just said, it's something that you consider. Her club team wasn't that particularly competitive. Socially, she was further ahead, and she really wanted to kind of get to college early. So that worked out well for her. But Anna Heath, very similar. She graduated as an 11th grader. And so she had a full semester. Her mom just had a baby. She wanted to spend half the year with helping her mom out and spending some good quality time with her family before she came here. And so it really was unusual that we would have two players at the same time come in a semester early. But it was great. It was, and both those players, you felt like they'd been part of the Baroque program for a couple of years. So even as freshmen, in that first semester, you can imagine the transition and going from high school to club to college, and you never felt like those guys were struggling. Physically, mentally, and emotionally, they really made the transition smoothly. And I think that speaks well to our team and the players that were returning, embracing them and helping them make that transition.
You had problems trying to find a sixth rotation player last year.
Right.
How's that going this year?
It's a work in progress. I don't think we have anybody that just rock solid in that spot. I think that they're developing. It's going to be a continue. We're better than we were, and I think that Jalen and Sophia and Puck, all three of those players are certainly a step higher and a level better than they were in the past. But we still have some work to do there.
What do you want from her this year?
Kamiley is really a senior, even though the plan is for her to come back next year. So she's kind of separated herself from just about everybody. She's really mindful about how she goes about her business. She's incredibly competitive, has a great voice in the gym, very passionate about what she's doing, and she's kind of a game-changing player for us, and we're a different team without her. So and skill-wise, she's gotten much better, calmer. She tends to get in the red zone a little bit sometimes, and I'm like, just take a deep breath and try to even play with an even keel. So she's starting to get a little bit better at that.
What do you think is key that has gone into Kamiley's growth just from from like the spring, and her growth as a leader?
Well, I think for all of them, and I'll kind of answer your question more specifically after I say this, is that the clock is finally in our advantage. For the last 2 years, I've been complaining about, the disadvantages that we've had going into COVID, and you really saw that in the tournament this last year. I mean, all those teams that advanced far had all these super seniors, and these, senior and graduates, and so the clock is finally in our favor, and finally we got a team that's, all those freshmen that were in 2020 when COVID hit and had to adjust and no off season and had 2 seasons in 1 year, and all those things were at a disadvantage for any of those teams that were like us, whether it was Stanford or Arizona or Oregon State. So I think the development was slower for sure than it normally would be for a program like ours. In terms of Kamiley's specific development, I think as the players have aged and gotten better, they have a better understanding of what leadership is and what it needs to be every single day. And I think for Kamiley, just like all of us, the older we get, the wiser we become. And I think that with this particular group, what I've seen is just a more a better way of going about their business without things ruffling their feathers. They're more about, let's get some business, let's handle our business in the gym, and then just leave. Kamiley has always been a very passionate young lady and very competitive, but the players, I think, listen to Kamiley more. I think the players are able to take what Kamiley has to say and use it in a positive way. And, for someone like Kamiley, you're just fortunate you have somebody that's willing to take that role. A lot of players just don't want that role at all. And then you got to be able to walk the talk. That's the other part of it. There's some, if you're going to be a leader, it's got to be on the floor 24/7, and it's got to be off the floor 24/7. My experience has been that as the players get older, with a leader like Kamiley, she becomes more of an impact player because of the wisdom that goes behind the amount of time they're in the program.
Have you thought any about going with the 6-2 when you have Anna and Emery, who are both have done that?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about there, and how's Emery progressing?
So again, Emery is a completely different level. There's a couple people I'll talk about. One is that Emery is terrific, and all those things and I talked to you about the importance of having juniors on your program, importance of having freshmen that become juniors, because when that junior year hits, players tend to figure things out. And so what happened with the transfer portal is that a lot of players are going to leave before the junior year, and the program never becomes stable because you're always counting on these freshmen and sophomore who are still trying to figure things out. And so your program is constantly in a rebuilding phase, and you never get the benefit of all the information and all the training that comes with fruition their junior and senior year. So here we are with a group of nothing but juniors and seniors, right? And so Emery takes her game from here and takes it a completely different level, and not just physically, but mentally and emotionally, and that's really kind of the biggest impact. You take somebody like Ziona. Ziona is like a completely different player, and I haven't had a fifth-year player, I don't know, 10 years? And so I'm watching Ziona on the very first day of practice, and I turn to Reed, I'm like, holy smokes, where did this kid come from? I mean, just a completely different player. I cannot get inside Ziona's head. I said that to the team. And I looked at Ziona, I said, when I talk to you, what happened? She goes, I just listen, and it doesn't bother me. And I'm like, exactly right. I said, seniors and graduates, they're just kind of in an island unto themselves, and they transcend kind of where they were, and they just are playing because they love to play. They don't let anything bother them. They make a mistake, they just let it roll right off the back. And so Ziona is just a completely different player. She's so much better than she was a year ago. I mean, and she was a senior last year. And so I'm looking at them going, well, no wonder all those teams that got those graduate players are so much better. And that really, really hit home for me because of how much better Ziona has been. And I mean, it's not even, it's so 180. It's just remarkable. And you'll see that when you see them, like, wow, Ziona is really, elite level player now.
Dave, any rule changes this year?
Nothing significant. The hope is the CRS stuff is going to be better. The cameras, we're supposed to get new cameras, and hopefully that'll be better. But the rule change is really the one rule change. We're switching benches again, switching sides, which I wasn't in favor of. But for a lot of teams, a lot of programs, one side is different than the other. So the band stays on one, and so it may be on the visiting team's end, and so they want to be able to switch. So that's really the only major change that I can remember.
Okay, how about any rule changes you'd like to see?
That I'd like to see? I've been, Joan Powell, who's our director of officials and does an exceptional job, and by the way, is a Hall of Fame member here at the U of A under volleyball, and but she's in charge of almost the Western Hemisphere of volleyball, and I've always talked to her trying to change this rule, and she always, gives me, Dave, that's never going to happen. And the one rule that I really like is the back row setter attack rule. And so what happens, and nobody understands it, coaches don't understand it, fans don't understand it, I'm so what happens is that any back row player that plays the ball above the net that goes over the net is considered a back row player. All right, and so what happens when the back row setter is setting the ball and it's tight to the net, all right, and the ball is at any part of the ball that goes over the net and the blocker blocks it, then that's considered a back row block, back row attack. All right, I'm not sure if you understand. So the setter comes in from the back row, all right, the ball's passed tight to the net, the ball comes, and anytime it crosses, as soon as it crosses the plane and the setter touches it and the blocker touches it, now it's a back row attack by the setter, all right? I hate that call, because nobody's in an advantage. And so what I'm saying, play on. Nobody gets it. You call that play, everyone in the stands are going, why are we stopping this? I don't understand. Nobody understands the back row call anyway, back row attacker call, because you have the 10-foot line, right? The line. We set a lot of balls at it behind that line. So if you're behind that line, you can be you can be above the level of the net to hit it. That's legal, all right? If you're behind that line. But as soon as you step in front of that line and you're a back row player, and you play the ball above the net, that's a back row attacker. All right? So when the setter's coming from the back row, trying to set this ball that's tight to the net, the blocker blocks it, and then, the ref will single this call, which means it's a back row attack. I'm like, no advantage, play on. Setter's not trying to attack the ball. So that's the one call that I'd like to change.
Sorry if this was asked earlier, but with the pending changes in 2 years to the conference, and there's been a lot of talk about the student welfare of the Southern California players
Right.
now with their travel.
Right.
Will that change recruiting for someone like you or anybody else in the conference? Do you feel like there might be an edge there with California athletes who don't want to put up with that type of travel?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I think that, I was one of the things that I first thought about when the LA schools talked about that. I'm like, this, from a student athlete welfare standpoint, the student athletes could stop this whole thing by saying, look, but the problem is they won't know until 2024. Going the 3-hour time change or 4-hour time change, and then the 5 to 6 hour, and then trying to get back to LA, and the student athletes, that's not good for them. I mean, I think we can all see that. I think eventually on the West Coast that does become an issue. I don't know how soon that becomes an issue. The Big Ten in recruiting, the Midwest and the East and the South, and you see this in just about every sport now, softball, soccer, I'm not sure if it's soccer, but certainly softball, certainly in volleyball. The concentration of the population, right, is 60 to 70% of the population is east of the Mississippi. And so the best recruits now are back there. And there's such a big presence now with the Big Ten and the SEC and the ACC. So everything's migrating east, For a lot of us who aren't in sports, that's a good thing, But for everyone that's connected to sports and recruiting, we'll see how that goes. I mean, right now, I think eventually that hurts the LA schools. So.
Thank you.
All right, anything else?
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, I'll grab the plate.
So for each of you, what'd you do this summer and spring that you think is going to help you?
Well, we had a lot of training. I think we put in the time this spring, especially just with having back-to-back seasons, that being our first spring as a team. I think overall we all just matured and had experience, and it just, I don't know. We just got better.
Yeah, it was nice having a first spring. It was my first spring here, and I've been here for like 4 years. And I think that's so weird, but it was also helpful to have our freshmen come in, our 3 freshmen, so we were all actually a whole squad. We all just got in together every day and kept the reps going. And then we all came together during the summer, except for the international girls because they went home. But we were here for the whole summer working out and staying together, so I thought that was cool.
Yeah, same. I think we work a lot this spring, and we really improve in a lot of things. Like, we're working a lot in serving, so now that we're all together, and this last week, I think we really improved, and we can see the difference, you know.
When you were home, did you play with your national team? Did you practice with them?
Yes, I did. Especially the first month, I was there like practicing double days too with them, and it's like the old team, so everyone was there. It was like pretty good, like hard practices and everything. So I think that also helped me to get more experience, and also in the tournament, I had the opportunity to play too. So I think that helped me individually and also the team.
They won that tournament, by the way.
Yeah.
What do you think that for each one of you that you're sort of, I'll do this so you can hear me, so that it's all of a sudden things are starting to click and you're coming together, but individually, what sort of is coming in your growth?
I'll go first.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, that was my first full year and my first spring ever. I always say I kind of feel gypped because my whole college career has like been weird. My freshman year we were plagued with injuries, and then COVID happened, and then yeah, all this stuff. But I really tried to make the most out of every time we get in here. I know that Dave's always said that. I get gypped too sometimes, but it's really just pushing myself further than what I think of, and always surrounding myself by good players around me. I don't know, there's always a level of discipline that I need to come into every practice. Like, it's not just to be the best in the gym, it's always to be the best in like the nation, the country, all of the levels. So I think there's that goals that I've always wanted to reach, and that discipline really makes a difference with every rep that we get. We have like this debate going on about 10,000 hours. Putting 10,000 hours into anything makes you an expert. And just the debate going on about that is no matter who gets the 10,000 hours, it's really what you do with those 10,000 hours, especially since we're all at an elite level already. So really focusing on every single rep that I get and always trying to improve. I think that's helped me a lot.
Along with discipline, I think everyone kind of has a standard that we want to set for ourselves each day in practice. And I think for me, I've just fine-tuned my goals that I want to accomplish and just the consistency of everything. So just me working on set location and just the right decision-making, I've just really gone just like looking at every single set of every practice. And we get graded every day for all of our sets. Every set gets looked at on film by Gwen and Dave, and they give us feedback every day. So I think just fine-tuning everything, that and serving. Also, we have done a lot of serving, which I think as a team, we've gotten so much better.
Yeah.
Like, our serving's going to be great for us this year.
Don't say that too much. Now they're going to expect it.
But, yeah, I think just reaching those goals each day in practice and staying consistent for me.
Yeah, and for me was, I think we had a lot of time this spring to practice more like specifically skills like passing, because during season we're doing a lot of team things, you know. And this spring we had time to do serving that I think I also improved on that. And also on my passing, because I mean, I already played for like 2 years here, like passing and everything, but now I feel so much comfortable, like with the guys too, like with liberos and everything. And I think for me it was more like the passing and also serving, like I feel so much better on that.
As a team, what's the goal this year?
Win.
Yeah. Win, period.
I mean, that's always the goal, to win. I don't know if you guys saw the preseason rankings, but we ended up at 10th, which we felt pretty disappointed and surprised about. But the only thing that we weren't surprised about was because we didn't have any big wins last year that we wanted to have. So we know that that's our goal coming into this year, is to get some big wins against some ranked teams. And we definitely have a lot of opportunities with our conference being so good, always. So I think, yeah, I think we'll. And preseason, yeah. Our preseason's pretty good too.
Do you have a little bit more of a chip on your shoulder because you were picked 10th?
Yes. Especially under some teams that we usually beat.
Yeah.
And considering that we have all of our returners, so that's kind of like a slap in the face to me. But we're kind of going in there with nothing to lose now. We have everything to prove though, and that's what we really want to do. We want to prove ourselves and that we're here and that we've gotten better every year.
Yeah.
We've kind of grown together like that. I don't know if you want to speak on that too.
You said it good.
I've been planning it ever since those polls came out.
What am I going to say?
Sophia, what do you see in Jalen as far as her improvement?
She improved a lot, I feel. Like, I feel that as an outsides, all the outsides in the team were like supporting each other a lot. And even if we're like, if it's like a competition between us because everyone wants to play, still we know everyone is like improving a lot. And in practice, I saw her like doing really good things. Like everything that they were telling us like in the spring, she's doing it really good. And she's I think she's more like mindful in the shots that she's doing. So I think she's doing really good for this season.
So you guys spent a lot of time in the gym improving. What's one thing that you did in the off season or this summer that was just fun that you just love doing?
Well, for me, we have, I think, 4 Arizona girls, local Arizona girls, and we got together a lot during the summer. It's me, Haven Ray, Jalen Hodge, and Lauren Rummel. Oh, and Kiori Robertson. So we tried to get together as much as we could since we were all in state. We drove to Tucson, back to Tucson. We played in a lot of like fun tournaments, and I know that's kind of boring because we played volleyball, but we played volleyball for fun, no pressure. I think it's a great bonding experience, especially the time like that we have doing what we love for fun, which is really valuable to me.
Our open gyms too, I felt like were fun. Like we only had the last couple weeks before we started preseason, but I think those were just fun. Like we could go out and just play together before the pressure started and before everything. And
the competition was still good.
Everyone was just having fun. We were playing well, having fun.
Outside of volleyball, we try to plan a lot of team bonding things, like just hanging out together. We definitely like to keep it chill. We don't do that many crazy things, but we're all really good friends with each other outside of the court. And I think that is really important going into this year, especially. We spent, how many years have we been together already? Like 3? 3.5.
Yeah.
And that's crazy.
That's the
We're old now.
But
We definitely missed the international girls though.
Yeah. Like we came literally just like,
jumped right into it.
Yeah. But still, like, me, like, and Pac and Dilara, we talk a lot during summer, like, about volleyball, about Hajar family and everything, so,
we definitely stayed in touch.
Yeah, we kept in touch.
I watched some of your games, by the way.
And Hiyori, she attended school last year, right, but wasn't with the team?
Yes.
So you guys got to know her last year off the court?
Yes, just a little bit. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She came in the spring.
Yeah, I think she was roommates with one of our girls too, so, yeah.
Anything else? All right. We're
Yeah.
good.
It's nice to see you guys again. It's been a while.